What is up? What is up? What is up, everybody? My name is Brady McGrath, and as always, I am joined with my co-host, Cam Garrity. Cam,
Hello.
how are we feeling today?
I'm feeling extra large, but a good extra large, because I weighed about 290 before I got COVID, like in the summer, and I'm at 262 as of today.
Oh, okay.
A lot of it is because of COVID and getting sick, and I don't know, maybe just not eating as much because I don't feel like I'm eating as much. It might not be a healthy weight loss, but it's a weight loss, and actually any weight loss for me is a you should get like 5 more times. I get it 5 more times, I'll be in shape.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as always, this podcast is sponsored by Sunnyside Sports and More. Get your autographs, collectibles, and memorabilia at Sunnyside Sports and More. Find them on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all the works. Fun fact, I'm actually going to be hanging out tomorrow with the god of Sunnyside himself, Ken.
The god.
We are going to be... I'm going to be... we're going to be going to Mohegan.
Nice.
And we're going to be trying to get some autographs.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to
Is anybody there?
Yeah, Khabib.
Khabib's there? Okay.
Khabib's there. Khabib's there, and I'm gonna challenge him to a one-on-one fist fight because I know he could choke me out, but I bet I can knock him out.
Right. Okay.
I bet, like,
all
if
right,
I was
relax.
I was like,
there,
come
dude.
here, Khabib. I'm gonna fuck you. I'm gonna give you the pop. I'm gonna give you the 1-2 elevator man.
He just sees you lift your shoulders and just fucking squares off and punches you in the mouth because he just saw it coming. Anyway, we got some things to talk about, and usually we talk about football for a while. So we're gonna start off with football, and it's not gonna be a football episode because we got some things to talk about. But for those that didn't see, the 49ers kind of shocked the NFL. Actually, I think the 49ers and Dolphins kind of shocked the NFL world. The Dolphins traded back with the 49ers, and then they traded back up themselves to 6th overall. So they got some ammo. They moved 3 spots back, got some ammo. The Eagles are now at 12. 49ers are now at 3. And it's clear that they're doing that for a quarterback, right? You don't trade up for, I don't care if it's the world, like Kyle Pitts. I don't care if he is going to be the greatest tight end to ever walk this planet. You do not trade up that much to draft a tight end because you just don't. You do that for a quarterback. You do that for your franchise quarterback. That it's not, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many picks you give up for a guy if you get the pick right, because nobody's going to remember that, right? Nobody remembers what was given up for Mahomes when teams move up, but everybody remembers what was given up for Mitch Trubisky. Yeah, so like that. So I don't think the price matters or anything like that, but it kind of signaled to a lot of Patriots fans when we saw that is we talked about this before, but Jimmy G's coming. That's what we were talking about. We're like, Jimmy G's here. We signed off. We're like, this is Jimmy G's team. Nothing's come into fruition yet, and now there's reports that it looks like the 49ers are kind of torn between Justin Fields and actually Mac Jones, not Trey Lance. And where I look at that is I am also on board with why a lot of teams are very wary of Trey Lance is because he's a project, right? It's going to be somebody that is not going to play probably for at least 2 years. And I think if you're the 49ers, do you want to sit behind, do you want Jimmy G for the next 2 years at his cap hit, which his contract's there, and that's fine. If they think they can keep him healthy and win with him in the next 2 years, if that's their plan, and then transition to Trey Lance, that's great. But in terms of the Patriots, man, there was obviously those reports of Belichick and Shanahan and Lynch and McDaniels all talking, all hanging out, and just hanging out at Bama at the pro day. Where I kind of look at that is I don't really read too much into it besides all that tells
something
me
about that pro day. I just want to say something about that pro day. Usually Bill Belichick usually has a really good poker face, but his level of unimpressed with Mac Jones was very apparent.
I think it was a purpose unimpressed.
I don't think so. I think it was just very apparent. Like he was like
I was gonna get to that after what I think
like,
of that. Yeah,
he kind of like I don't think he was like
he was shaking his head.
Yeah, like I don't think he was playing a game. I think he was like, hopefully we don't have to get this guy. Like,
yeah. Well, so this is the thing too. When I look at that, the only thing I read into the only thing I read into of why they were talking is that means they've been talking before. right? So all the reports of
yeah,
they've been saying Jimmy G's not available, Patriots haven't called. Now that conversation right there meant the Patriots were talking with their friends because they've been reaching out to them about Jimmy G, and they were friends before. That's why he traded Jimmy G there. He wanted to help out his boys, right? Yeah. He wanted to help out Jimmy G, who he liked, because he was forced to trade Jimmy G. I look into, now this is more of a conspiracy theory than anything, is there's reports out there that people think, and I honestly, anything could happen at this point, and I'm back on the train, is that Mac Jones was purposely throwing to the point where it didn't look great, so the 49ers wouldn't take him. Like, he was talking all this stuff like, I'd love to play for the Patriots, I ran this play. No, he does want the money, but I think at the end...
Cam disappeared, everybody. I'm not sure if you could hear him on...
Are we here? All right, we're back. We're back. Dude, my mic does this every time. I need to get a new mic. But I don't know. I think the Patriots in that situation, it doesn't mean that he's not going to go high. Like, he could be saying, I don't want the 49ers to take me 3 so that if the Patriots move up to 4, I'm there. Maybe that could be a thing.
Money!
I don't know, man. I think there's a strong possibility that the New England Patriots are going to trade up for 4 or 5. They've already been talking to the Bengals and the Falcons. Both of them are listening, right? So the Bengals aren't just like, no, 100% we're taking Penei Sewell like everybody thinks. They also could get Jamar Chase, right? So just looking at the draft, everybody needs to chill, right? At the end of the day, if it's Cam Newton and a second or third round quarterback, that's what the plan is. And honestly,
again, if it's Cam Newton, we have to pay him $14 million. It's the best $14 million,
right? Because that's a bargain. Because for him to get that, he has to go all the way.
he has to go all the way.
And but regardless, even if it's Cam Newton and a young guy, right? What Robert Kraft's comments yesterday was saying, right? Robert Kraft's comments yesterday basically saying that, like, I don't think Jarrett Stidham or Cam basically had a fair chance with the roster we had last year, which is totally, and people are like, well, Stidham's had a chance before, and it's like, no, he was a rookie. He was a second-year player last year.
Yeah, and he was just kind of thrown in.
Was he second? Or he was 2019. Yeah, 2019.
So he was kind of thrown into a lot of it. So I think the thing is, it's going to be more of a fair shake. I completely agree with it. There were a lot of people being like, "No, Kraft is just." I don't think Kraft is just saying that. I think Kraft is actually being genuine, saying like, really didn't do much to help them, and that's our fault. Like, that's taking blame. Like, he's not deflecting it. He's taking the full blame.
Yeah.
That's why I completely believe it. That's why I think it's genuine.
And the thing with Stidham too, that game that he came in, what was it, against KC, right? Yeah. And he threw a pick, right? Like pretty early, right? He threw a dime and it went right through Edelman's hands, right? It was a great, and that was a pick 6. And then he was playing from behind the rest of the game. If he was put in a little bit earlier, like, watching him play, when everybody's like, oh, Stidham stuck, like, it's like, no, when you watch him play, like, he's got a good arm, like, he's pretty accurate. He's not a bad throwing quarterback.
He's always been accurate. Like,
that's what he came out of Auburn. He was an accurate quarterback.
Yeah, everybody liked him for that reason, because he was accurate. He was pro style. He was ready to play the game.
And he's been taking a lot of initiative, taking these guys out there. Yeah. Honestly, I would not be surprised if Bill Belichick thinks he has the guy.
Yeah, he was the first quarterback at Pats West. He was the first one there.
I wouldn't be surprised though
with Kendrick Bourne and Hunter Henry.
I wouldn't be surprised if Bill Belichick, like, we've talked all about like who they're going to trade up, I wouldn't be surprised if Bill Belichick sits at 15, takes someone like Micah Parsons, or takes whoever falls to him, right? Takes the best player available at 15, either him or someone like J.C. Horn or something like that, right? That's probably what could happen. Uses the rest of the picks as normal, and then, trades some of our later round picks to move up in the 3rd or 4th round and grab somebody he wants.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if he goes with a guy like Kellen Mond, or who else is in that area of the round, like a Kyle Trask, like something like that in the 2nd or 3rd round, to just be like, we're going to go with Stidham.
In the second round, if they're going to go for a quarterback, they'd go after Trask.
Yeah.
But in that 3rd round, I would see the Kellen Monds go.
Or Newman too. Newman could go round 3.
Yeah, exactly. I think, actually, no, I don't think we have round 3 anymore.
No, we do. What?
No, we forfeited round 3.
No, don't we have an extra compensation from Tom Brady?
No,
we don't have our own 3rd. We have a comp pick. We have 96th.
We have 96?
Yeah. We should have 96.
Must not be updated because I like looking at Tankathon. Tankathon says 96 is Bucks.
I don't think that's true. I'm pretty sure. I'm almost positive we have a third rounder.
Yeah.
Unless the number's wrong and it's really like a fourth rounder. I don't know. Yeah, but like still, I know we have something in the 90s.
We can get Kellen Mond there, and you know what?
Yeah.
I hate him so much. We could get Ian Book too. I mean,
like, that's what I'm saying. Like Bill Belichick could do that.
There's a lot.
Christian Barrymore, we talked about at 15, right? We talked
saying it
the two.
It's going to happen. They're going to draft Christian Barrymore, but they got all these people. Do you think they draft Barrymore at 15?
Yeah, bro. They have 12. All right, so they have 12 defensive linemen. About half of them are getting cut anyway. But why would he not take a young kid with a lot of talent if he has a chance to beat out the other top 6 on the roster? If he thinks that the talent is there, it's not we have defensive linemen. It should be like, if he can beat out one of these guys or eventually become the starter, and because he has the talent, why not take the pick? That's Bill Belichick's philosophy. It doesn't matter if we have depth at the position. Take the damn player.
Emergency Snapple fact. Real fact number 279. Canada has the longest coastline of any country in the world.
They do.
That's the fact. That's the Snapple fact right there.
That's right there. Yeah, but so another fact is that Bill Belichick has never shied away. As much as we shit on him for his offensive drafts, he's been pretty good defensively. When he knows there's a guy and he's aggressive, he's been good, right? A lot of these draft picks as of recent haven't been great, which is why I think with Caserio gone, I think we might see an improvement in the draft. People forget, like, Caserio being the GM and him leaving, I know a lot of it's Bill, but his influence could have been a negative influence in player development and actually deciding who these good players were. Now that he's out, we could see Bill Belichick have one of his old drafts, right? And that would be even better because he made up for the past drafts in free agency, right? This free agency. Yeah. And now if he can get if we can just get like 2 or 3, like even if 2 of the 3 players I'm talking about are just role-playing like solid depth pieces and like one stud, it's a win. This offseason is completely a win, regardless of the position. I don't care if it's a left tackle or a safety or a cornerback or a linebacker, whoever it is. If we go in this draft and we get a stud that we're like, wow, that was a good pick. Like Onwenu last year in the 5th round. If we're like, wow, we have Onwenu, it's a nice young piece. We had Winovich. And then he
showed up and he was like, wow, love this guy.
Yeah. And then like same thing with Winovich. It's like there's a little bit of talent there. If he's got the right pieces around him, he's going to make some noise this year, by the way.
Uche was late, when he was playing, he was great.
Jennings had a little bit of promise as a depth piece.
Yeah, and he got hurt, great.
Yep.
Why can't I think of his name? From Purdue, the linebacker we have from Purdue. He's another guy that just got hurt. No?
Cash Moolah.
I'm
just kidding. No,
yeah, I mean, like,
but no, I agree with you. Like,
they're good at drafting late, so
they for some reason they just suck at the top 2 rounds. They find the guys
drafting late, so that's why I'm saying, maybe if they do draft Ian Book, I'll be like, okay,
maybe that's why Belichick. Maybe that's why Belichick traded out of the draft all these years, is because he knew that he can't evaluate the talent. He's like, we're just gonna say it's for value, but really he was scared.
Belichick's doing out there.
Nike put together some moves.
He's putting all these moves out.
No, I don't know, man. I think with the quarterback thing, we have to wait and see. The draft is on the 29th, which is we're about I guess 4 weeks officially away completely, because April's a little longer. There's 5 weeks in April.
We're also 9 days away from WrestleMania, so
yes,
that's way more important than the NFL draft, I will say.
Okay. Anyway, the NFL draft is 28 days away, and my point is that anything could happen between now and then. We could, the 49ers basically said through Albert Breer that we're not moving Jimmy unless it's a 1st-round pick. Which is where I'm out, because at the end of the day, if you're talking a second, like I'm okay. At the end of the day, 15th overall, the highest we've picked in basically 20 years without moving up. I don't know, man. I think you need to take a player there. I think you should just take the best player available. And if we think that Stidham's going to be the guy, like, I don't even know, right? Like, I am not taking anything off the board because of how this offseason went. Bill Belichick could do all of this and say, well, we have a good young player on the roster at quarterback right now that hasn't even gotten a fair chance, because his first year behind Brady, and And his second year was COVID with the worst receivers we've ever had in one of the hardest offenses to learn. So, he's taking, if you watch the videos of him out there, he's taking so much initiative.
He's taking it very serious, too.
Kendrick Bourne showing them walking through the plays with each other. Your backup doesn't do that.
I think this receiving core, everything that they've been saying, being at Pat's West and doing all this, they're already a really tight-knit group.
Yep.
I'm actually thoroughly surprised that they're already this friendly with each other.
And I think that comes down to the fact that they identified players they wanted, but they also identified people that they wanted. I think they were Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, these are all good guys. They're not divas. They're good football players, right? That's what Bill Belichick likes when he goes into the draft, is a football player. He doesn't want a one-dimensional elite wideout. It's why we've never had it. He likes football players that make winning plays when it matters. That's as much as we want to do it the other way, right? How all these other teams are and get these stud wideouts and everything. It's okay, you guys realize we've just done that for the past 20 years and won, and we still have the coach that put that formula together. Even though Tom Brady was the greatest of all time, we were very lucky to have that. Bill Belichick still put around a winning program with less around Tom Brady. And everybody's oh, Tom Brady left. He was clearly the answer. It's no, it's more 50-50, right? If Bill Belichick left and Brady was still here, we probably would have been a 10-6 team at best.
Yeah, exactly. If you reverse the roles, and Bill Belichick
maybe
the head coach, if Bill Belichick goes to be the head coach of the Buccaneers, let's say that.
Yep.
It's not Bruce Arians anymore. Bill Belichick wins more games and goes to the Super Bowl, wins the Super Bowl.
Yep. 100%.
It's I say this all the time, and I'll defend it till I turn blue in the face. The Patriots were 4 or 5 plays away from having 11 wins. So it's really it's not like it's rocket scientists. They made little mistakes at major times, and that led to their record.
And the thing with COVID too is we remember Cam Newton was, when he was playing, everybody in New England was oh wow, it's the old Cam Newton.
The first 3 weeks he was playing phenomenal, and then week 4, he has COVID, he's not going to be around. Week 5 he comes back from COVID and he's affected.
And he's not. And listen, dead serious. I'm not an athlete or anything like that, clearly, but having COVID, I still have lingering effects. I developed asthma to allergies, and now every time I have allergies, I literally can't breathe, and it's way worse than I've ever had it.
There are a lot of people that are having a lot of issues, a lot of very physically fit people.
It's long term. Jason Tatum still talks about it. There's a reason Romeo Langford hasn't come back. He's cleared protocol, and he was supposed to play last night, and they literally kept him out because it said conditioning, because he literally can't run up and down the court.
It's tough. It's literally long term affecting, and then especially if you go into something like that, and you're also a quarterback, you're getting hit. And Cam Newton was one of the most hurried quarterbacks in the league last year. So
some people forget he still found the end zone for us.
He's getting hit a lot. He did. He found the end zone a lot, and that was a lot of drive persistence. And I'm saying I'm giving him another chance. You know what?
Now put it this way. When you look at our offense last year, the eyeball test, right? Who is the best offensive player? Just eyeball test. Regardless of stats, who felt like teams had to actually game plan for? Cam Newton, right? So, yes, he didn't have the best throwing, but he had the worst. Honestly, Tom Brady, everybody's well, Tom Brady would have made it work. It's no shit. It's the greatest quarterback of all time. That's like saying oh, well, Michael Jordan would win games with this Celtics roster. It's well, no shit, because it's Michael Jordan. LeBron would win games too. You know what I mean? They're the best player of all time. They make people around them better. That's what Tom Brady is.
I'm on this hot take train that people are not very happy about when I say it, so I'm going to say it now too. Cam Newton is the best dual threat quarterback of all time.
He is 100%.
And you know what? And the stats prove it.
Michael Vick walked so Cam could run.
And then Cam took that over. Cam Newton has more rushing touchdowns. He has more passing yards. He has more passing touchdowns. He has better passing efficiency, better completion percentage. The only thing Vic has more is rushing yards, and it's really not by that much. And
we like Cam. Like
more.
I like Cam, and I know you do too. And the thing is, with the Patriots, when we're asking to trade up and get all these quarterbacks, right? Like, nobody's denying that I think Jimmy G with Cam would be better than Cam Newton right now, right? That's why, like, for the right price. But when I say draft a quarterback and trade up, it's not because I don't think Cam Newton's a guy, but I know he's not the long-term answer. We just don't have a long-term answer, and Stidham could be that. We don't know. It could be Stidham and Mond. It could be Stidham and Newman. Stidham and Trask.
Stidham and Mond, please.
It could be Stidham and Fields. Like, we don't know what the Patriots are going to do. But at the end of the day, there needs to be some type of long-term answer because we just don't have it. We don't know who the quarterback is. And in the NFL, if you don't have a franchise quarterback, your team is almost guaranteed to not win games. You can't win games and be a consistently good team just having journeyman quarterback every 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't work because the NFL is very, like, offenses, and especially the Patriots offense is based on rhythm and actually learning the playbook. So if you're just scrapping quarterbacks every 2 years, it's not going to work for us, right? Andy Dalton, right? Look at him with the Bengals. He was he's fantastic for the Bengals, right? He wasn't, elite, but he was good for them because he was in the system. They built it around him, and he was there for years.
Yep,
and he's still a pretty decent quarterback. He's not terrible, but he's not going to lead the Bears to anything, right? Unless he's with the Bears for the next 3 or 4 seasons, and that's who they have, and that's their guy. But we know it's not.
Yeah,
but, like, that's the only way. It's so, like, with the NFL, is like the longer players are on NFL teams, the better they do, right? And I think a lot of people, especially with Mitch Trubisky, I think a lot of people shit on Mitch Trubisky because of where he was drafted and who was in his draft. It's not his fault that the 2 of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league were drafted in his draft and they happened to go after him.
I think what Mitch did,
he brought him to the playoffs.
Oh, I'm saying I think what Mitch did this year, or this free agency, was like the smartest thing ever because it's more subliminal. Because what he did was, I'm going to go be the backup for the Bills. And then at the end of the year, people are going to say, where's Mitch Trubisky going to go?
Yeah.
At the end of the year. So it's like there's going to be a want and a desire to see what Mitch Trubisky can do.
And learning from the quarterback coaches that taught Josh Allen what he knows to get him to where he's at.
Exactly.
Right? Learning that. Right? Learning how to be a better quarterback, right? To hone in on his skills. People hear all about how Mitch Trubisky has made strides.
He can go back to Chicago.
Right, but hear this out.
Pull back up.
Hear this out. They play the end of the season. Right now there's an extra game, right? Mitch Trubisky's probably going to play the last 2 games of the season because they're going to want to protect Josh Allen. If they have a lead, they're not going to play Josh Allen, right? So now it's 2 games that it's probably going to be 2 games at the end of the season that you're going to see from the backup quarterback.
No, I love how much NFL players hate it.
Yeah.
I actually think it's so funny.
I think it's funny. I just wish they added another bye towards the end of the year.
Twitter was the funniest thing the day that happened. Like, Alvin Kamara was the first person to retweet it and go, this is dumb. Yeah. Shit's dumb.
Like, be like, okay, then don't play.
Awesome.
Like,
no, I think that's... No, you know what? I kind of agree with
I just want a bye week, an extra bye week.
Dude, I think it's good that they added this, right? And they took out a preseason game.
Yes.
So what I think is going to happen eventually is they're going to take out another preseason game
and add a bye week
and make it 18.
Well, they can't. Games. They actually can't do 18 until 2031 because of the CBA.
Okay, well but they could do a 2031 when they add 18.
100%. Then
when they add 18 in 2031, we're gonna look back at this conversation and go, okay, now everybody can go 8-8 again. I'm trying to think about that math now.
9-9.
It makes me angry. You can't be 8-8 anymore.
I hate it. I hate it. But I also like the fact that we have more football. I like the fact we have more football in general. I just wish there was a second
7-10.
I wish there was a second bye week towards the end of the season. I think within the first 6 games, a team gets a bye week, and then within the last 6 games, a team gets a bye week, right? Because I think when you look at it that way, like that's how you make everybody happy. But at the end of the day, the Players Association and the players, you agreed upon this, right? And at the end of the day, it's more money in your pocket, whether you like to think, oh, they're being greedy, more games. It's like, but then that's more games, so you can now ask for more money, and you can there's more injuries, and it's like, okay, but now there's a less preseason game. It's the same amount of games that you'd be playing. It's just one matters more than it didn't before. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just have one more game that matters now because you took out a preseason game, right? And, like, they're like, well, the players didn't play in the fourth game. It's like, yeah, but you played in the third, right? So now you're only going to play in 2 preseason games.
Yeah.
You're not playing all 3 preseason games, so now you're only playing 2 preseason games instead of 3. And instead of the third game that you were going to play, that's now the game that matters. So it matters for a game. Your stats, you're going to be able to blow records out of the water now, right? Like 1,000-yard rushers are going to be like, you're going to have that happen now.
Hot take, records are now meaningless. Records mean nothing now.
I would say
I'm going to stand on that pole until I die. Records don't mean
I would say the only records that matter are wins, really, right now. Like quarterback wins, like Tom Brady's wins and Belichick.
Because imagine if...
And passing yards, though, because I don't know. They did that in shorter time. If people start... It will happen, but...
Imagine if Adrian Peterson had an extra game.
That's what I'm saying. When I said the 1,000-yard rushers, I literally said, for you to be considered... Like, you know how, like, you have, like, the Mendoza line in baseball? The Mendoza line now for football is 1,000-yard rushing. If you're under 1,000-yard rusher, you're just not a good running back. Like, that's how they're going to view it. You have 950 yards, you're not that good.
Yeah.
Like, you have to get 1,000. That's what it's going to be.
I really do think it's like
1,000-yard receiver too.
Now that extra game just adds like a whole nother element to like breaking records. And now it could be like more like center focused on that. And I think it's stupid. And now records don't matter.
The only thing though is I think there is a possibility.
Add an average. You ready for this? Add who's the leading rusher of all time in the season? It's Emmitt Smith?
I believe, right now.
So go to Emmitt Smith, right? And then look at his average rushing yards per game. Add that on. Add that on now.
Add that on times how many seasons he's played.
Add it on because now records
average rushing yards per game, which you would say, right? And then for every game that he played, or whoever, for every game that they had a 16-game season, that's how you have to look. If he played a 14-game season,
without even playing, you've added on 10,000 rushing yards.
But this is what I'm saying though. The way you do it is, let's say somebody only played 14 games, right, a year. Take their average.
So you can break the record. There you go.
Yeah. But take the average, right? Like you said, the average per game that they had. Let's say they played 14 games. Now there's 17 games. So you add 3 times how many yards they average, then you multiply that by how many years they played. That's how many yards you add on. And like what you're going to say, like you would add 10,000 yards onto there. I think the only thing where the records could not be broken for the first couple of years is I think if they don't expand the playoffs, right? Well, because by expanding the playoffs again, you're going to have a lot of teams that are going to have like a first round bye. If they keep it this way, right, you're going to see a lot of teams that in weeks, I guess 17 and 18 now, are going to be sitting players out.
Yeah.
For 2 weeks now. Like I said earlier, like Mahomes is not going to play the last 2 games now, not just the last game. Because when they get out to a start, and they're
dogfighting with the Chargers this year for the division, he's gonna have to play it.
But like think of it this way: when they've played they're playing 17 games. So let's say they're 13-2, right? Because instead of 12-2, they're not gonna play Patrick Mahomes the last 2 games, right? And it's the same thing with the Bills. Like let's say they're in the same situation, which I'm not saying all these teams are gonna be that, but let's say the Bills are in the same situation. Mitch Trubisky's going to play the last 2 games. And that's why I think it's a smart idea for him is because he's like, I'm going to, like, he has a better chance of playing with the Bills because, like, if Josh Allen stays healthy, like, he's going to be able to go in there, learn the system, become a good player, everything like that, showcase his skills the last 2 games in the season, and then become a free agent, and everybody's going to talk about how he turned his career around, how he got great coaching, how he still has it, and that people should take a chance on him. And then a desperate team that has failed at their draft, a.k.a. the Denver Broncos, who are not going to draft a quarterback, is going to go after.
I think they're going to draft Mac Jones.
I don't think they will.
Okay, we'll go back to this. I think you're good.
I think Mitch could be a good spot for them after this year. I think they could. Well, I think he'll be a good bridge guy at worst. Like they'll be like, all right, we'll sign this guy for 2 years and back to square one. You know, that's the thing with drafting too. Is like with Bill Belichick, people always forget with his draft picks, yes, he's failed, right? But he doesn't put all of his eggs in one basket a lot of like what these other teams do. Like, you know what I mean? A lot of teams hang their hat on like certain draft picks and they're like Noah Fant and Drew Lock and all these guys and like, which are pretty good players, not great, but like they hang their hat like this guy's going to be the next thing, like he's going to turn our franchise around. I think that's what Bill Belichick does better than a lot of people is he realizes that like he could draft a tight end in the 3rd round, but he's still going to go draft another one the year after, right? Mm-hmm. Like, or he could draft a running back. He's going to draft one the year after. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't mean like, oh yeah, we got our guy. Like that's what I like about Bill Belichick is it's like, it's never your job. And I think that's what's leading me to believe he might not draft a quarterback in the 1st round because he doesn't want to get that guy that thinks it's his turn and that it's his team because he was drafted. Like, that's why I don't think he's going to trade up because of the whole money behind it and just him being the diva.
Maybe.
We're going to take a quick break because we are going to get back and we are going to talk about the Celtics and how awful they have been and a little bit of March Madness.
Basketball.
We'll be right back.
We're back. We're back.
Oh my God. Sorry, headphone users. I had to cough into your ear.
You're gross. You're disgusting.
My allergies have been really bad. Like,
you
terrible.
Disgust me.
They just haven't gone away.
Hey, just quick before we get into basketball, I just want to add congratulations on the Boston Red Sox starting out 9-0 because they play the Orioles for 6 games and the Rays. Yeah. So congratulations on the Red Sox starting out 9-0. You guys are on a great head start.
Or 0-9.
No, shut your mouth. Congratulations, Boston Red Sox, 9-0, first 9 games.
Sorry, I fell asleep for a second. Were we talking baseball?
Yep.
All right, let's go to basketball. Sorry, I fell asleep a little bit. Yeah, so I just want to go off and say the Boston Celtics issue, we've been talking about what it is. I've said it's Brad Stevens for a while. I've kind of had a change of heart of what this issue is.
I bet the over. I want to shoot myself.
The issue is that this falls on every single person and player of the Celtics organization. It falls on Danny, it falls on Brad, and it falls on the team. There's no more, it's all this guy's fault, it's all this person's fault, right? Because their issues right now is a bunch of things, right? The roster is not where it should be, right? We need some help still. Even with Evan Fournier, like, he's going to be back to whatever he's playing. Like, it's fine, right?
Okay, so I just want to say this one thing. The Boston Celtics Instagram made me so angry last night because they posted, it's like, oh, congratulations, Evan Fournier, on your first official bucket as a Boston Celtic. But, like let's just completely gloss over the fact that he went 0 for 10 in his debut.
Yeah.
In 30 minutes played. Let's just not talk about that one. Yeah. But yeah, congrats on your first bucket in your 40th minute.
But this is what I want to say. It also falls on the players because there is no heart. And people were like, well, it's the personnel. It's like, for the most part, the core is the same. We got the same level of play from guys like IT and Crowder and guys like that, right? We got better level of play from those kind of players than we're getting right now.
Are you ready for this? Let me just throw this one out.
Go ahead.
So since that trade and the few games they've played, everybody, like, the starters have been great. But we're going back.
Have they though?
I think last night in that game,
Tatum and Brown though, are those points coming in terms of making players, because their thing is we don't have a facilitator and somebody that's making players around them better, and I feel like a lot of their stats are just them scoring and putting up numbers.
Yeah, well, last night, okay, I just want to throw this out there. Last night, Tatum was our leading scorer, 25.
Yep.
Jaylen Brown, 24. Kemba, 22. Mm-hmm. Marcus Smart, 17. Peyton Pritchard, 8.
Yeah, no bench scoring. At
Luke
all.
Cornett, 4.
Right.
Wagner, 2.
And Fournier only took 6 shots. That's the thing that annoyed me.
Robert Williams didn't play.
Yeah, he was
Sammy
out.
didn't play. Tremont Waters didn't play.
Tristan Thompson still out.
Thompson didn't play. Taco Fall. Why didn't we just play Taco Fall?
Because if you watched him play the other night, he's not
any centers. Doesn't matter. At least put him in for a few minutes. That's the problem. That's what you got to do with a guy like Taco Fall. You need to just let him play for like 5 or 6 minutes a night, so then he can get a feel for an NBA floor. And it's like that's what they had to do to Robert Williams. They had to play him for like 10 minutes a night, and now he's their starting center. But he has poor blood circulation, and he's failing at that. And then we got the guys that we traded for getting 4 points and 2 points. They attributed 6 points. Evan Fournier had that many points. So the guys that we got out of the Tice trade put up the same amount that we got Fournier. 12 points right there.
Right. So, and by the way, Romeo Langford.
I bet the over. Langford is out. It was 224.5. They got to 222.
This is my point. If we play the Rockets, which we do on Friday, and the Celtics do not put up at least 25 points per game, after that game, like 25, they have to win by 25. Sorry, their course are going to put up at least 25 points. But if that Celtics team does not win by 25 points, I think the play needs to be, and as stupid as this may sound to some of you, is Kemba and Smart need to head to the bench and need to put Peyton Pritchard and Evan Fournier out there with that roster, and you need to go because they're not winning games. And Kemba can't even play back-to-backs anyway, right? So he's going to get the same minutes. Just have him coming off the bench give him better matchups, right, against second-unit guys that he can actually take advantage of and go off. Because, I know everybody's like, well, the contract, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I don't give a shit. At this point, we've lost more games in 48 games than we lost in 72 games last year. Like,
I think the problem with the Celtics,
it's not a good team. We need to shake things up.
It's always the curious case of the second quarter. It's
the curious case of quarters 1 through 3. They don't try until they're down by 20 and are like, we got to make a comeback now. That they don't start off hot, and I think their talent alone.
Dig their hole in the second quarter.
They dig their hole because I think
they're like, we got to step it up, and then the fourth quarter they just kick it in the maximum overdrive. Like
I think they do that because they think their talent can take them through the first half.
They outscored them 35-23.
Right, but I'm saying I think they believe on paper their talent is good enough alone to coast through the first 3 quarters and then close the game out. That's what they think. They're trying to save their effort. That's what it feels like when I watch them out there. It's like they're saving their effort for the fourth quarter. Because all of a sudden the fourth quarter hits, Kemba Walker's cardiac Kemba. He's stopping on a dime. He's playing with high energy. Marcus Smart's not making stupid fouls and taking bricks when they're trying to make a comeback. And it's it's crazy. And Tatum's actually driving to the net instead of just settling for 3 points. I get he's your scorer, but you need to. The reason we're not winning is because of the fact that Tatum and even Brown are doing this too much. They're not driving and kicking enough. In the beginning of the game, they're basically trying to just huck up a bunch of threes, get hot. Because when they're hot, right, and they're on, they're hitting those threes. We're winning by 30 points because we have some good scores. But the thing is they're trying to get ahead like that rather than attacking. Look at the Thunder game, right? We started so slow because they were just settling for threes. That's why that dude had that's why he had 22 or 21 rebounds because we were missing.
Yeah.
That it's not because his teammates were getting rebounds too. He got those rebounds because we were just chucking up shots. He had 18 in the first half, something like that.
Against who, the Thunder?
Yeah. Moses Brown had.
Let me see. Thunder box score.
Moses Brown had 18 in the first half or something like that.
He went 8. He ended the game 8 for 10 with 21 points and 23 rebounds.
Yeah, he had 8. I think it was. Trying to figure it out.
Their next most rebounds was 8.
Right, but that's still good. That's 30 rebounds.
No, and then 5.
You know what 30 rebounds means?
But that
30 misses.
Yeah, exactly.
That means that we're hucking up shots and are just yup, just shooting it there. And it's
still won the game because they missed more.
Right, because they're not a good team. We should have won that game regardless. But the fact that their center gave us 23 rebounds, right? attack the basket, man. Like, Tatum, dribble past the guy and go to the rim and get some calls. And if you're not getting calls, fine, but at least get to the rim and kick it out to Jaylen Brown. Or Jaylen Brown, get to the rim and kick it out to Tatum or Fournier or Kemba. Like, we have score. That's the thing that pisses me off. We have 4 very good, talented scorers on the court at all times, and we cannot score. And then we can't even play defense.
Right? But then go back, right? And you look at the game they played against the Bucks last weekend.
Yep.
They were phenomenal.
Amazing. The game right after the trade deadline, we're like, oh my God.
They were like, all right, maybe this is what they needed. Like, if they show they can go out and play like that. Tatum with the 20.
That's why it's frustrating.
But then again, it's just the starters.
Mm-hmm.
And then 7.
You know, you want to know what's the issue with Peyton Pritchard? He does not. Brad takes him out for Kemba and Smart when he's in a rhythm.
He's green. And the issue is he's really funny because he's Celtics.
Yeah,
but he's really green. You know, he's.
But that's the thing, though. He scores 10 points in 10 minutes. Keep him out there. Give him 20 minutes instead of pulling him out. Because that's the thing. He starts off the first quarter like he gives Kemba or Smart a rest, right? Starts off in the beginning of the game. He scores like 12 points in like 10 minutes or something. And then Brad pulls him out and puts Smart and Kemba back out there. It's like this. That's what needs to happen. This guy's hot. We need bench scoring. Let him play 20 minutes, right? Let Smart and Kemba get even more rest. And then when they go out there, you're playing a fully rested Kemba and Marcus Smart in the third quarter. You're not going to lose those games. But now, when you have Peyton Pritchard sitting on the bench after he first went out there in the first half, not playing until the early fourth quarter, it's like he's not going to be hitting those shots when we need them most. So it's like, that's the thing that really gets to me, is when somebody has the hot hand, we're taking them out. And that's why I'm saying, if we lose to the Rockets, right? If we actually lose to the Rockets at this point in the season, I'm not saying tank, but at this point in the season, you need to give like minutes of like Grant Williams and guys like those to like Nesmith and Romeo and Peyton Pritchard and just see what you have. And even if you don't see what you have, other teams can see what you have with that so that you can trade them in the offseason if you have to.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think we should get over to basketball that is far less frustrating.
That is actually passion and heart.
NCAA basketball right now. I think this personally is the best March Madness tournament that I have ever watched, that I have ever like bet on, that I have ever paid attention to. Like these teams through COVID, right?
Yep.
Like they're showing up, they're showing out, and they are just balling. Like I love watching every single game. And like UCLA upsetting Michigan was insane. Arkansas was supposed to be like this great thing. Like Tom Musselman's doing great. Baylor, they walked into a buzzsaw. Like, you know, even like the NIT and like the CBI, like those tournaments were fun to watch. Like, I just think that this Final Four with Houston, Baylor, and UCLA Gonzaga, it's setting up with what I thought, you know, I really thought was going to be the Final Four, and that's Gonzaga Baylor. I think those are the 2 best teams in the nation. They were supposed to play in the middle of the season, but due to COVID, with Baylor having a big COVID outbreak, they weren't able to play it. And now we're going to be able to see like who is the real number 1, because we didn't get to see that battle.
Yeah.
We didn't see somebody take that spot. Gonzaga's trying to go undefeated, which I think they're totally going to be able to do. I think at one point during the season, 4 out of their 5 starters were the best at their position in the nation. That is so unheard of. And especially for a school like Gonzaga. Like they're not...
It's not Duke, it's not Kentucky.
Exactly. They're always in that conversation of like, oh, look, it's Gonzaga. They're always in the tournament. You know, they're always like a 5 seed or a 4 seed. But like this Gonzaga team is so different from the team that was a few years ago, like 4 minutes away from a national championship. To blow it. They would blow that team out now. Like they are such a different breed. Mark Few is an unreal coach. Sooner or later, I think he should be an NBA candidate because the things he's been able to do with that school. I think Baylor Houston, that's going to be a great game. They're both really good defensively. Houston's defensive efficiency is 12th best in the entire nation. But like I said, I think it's just going to come down to the two best teams in college, and that's going to be Gonzaga Baylor. I am so fired up.
I am fired up for it,
and I think the over.
And I think that the NBA compared to it, like the passion level in NCAA, we always know it's always there. But I think it's more paramount this year. Like, we see the difference this year because I think a lot of these players in the NBA are just like, there's not as much passion. Like, it felt like, and like, honestly, I'm going to say this, it felt like since when COVID started and everything like that, it felt like a lot of these like players in the NBA kind of lost, like, especially because of the super teams. I think a majority of the league is just like, it's the Nets and Lakers, like, we're not going to win. And like a lot of, like, besides some of the other teams, like I'm talking like Clippers and you know, the Jazz and the Bucks, like those teams that think they have a chance, and Philly. But like outside of like maybe the top 5, maybe 6 teams in the league, the rest of the teams feel like they're just packing it in and just like trying to play for stats.
I've always been a big guy on this. I think that college sports are way more exciting to watch than professional sports.
Yeah, because
mostly for the fact that they're just playing for something. Like, it's like when you're in the NBA, you're just playing for your paycheck and you're playing for a championship. These kids in the NCAA, because they're just kids, can't forget they're just kids.
Yep.
You know, they're playing for
a game they love, and there's a lot of players that will never make it out of that.
Dude, the dude on Loyola Chicago, he's not going to go and be an NBA player.
That was the last time he's playing basketball, like, in an organized setting.
But Cameron Krutwig took the nation by storm by being just an absolute, like, gremlin.
Mm-hmm.
And he, like, you know, he balled out and he showed up. And that's just something that, like, you don't get to see in the NBA.
Yeah.
You get to see, you know, all of these like amazing games. You get to see these great championships and stuff like that, but you don't every day get to see Loyola Chicago versus Oregon State.
Nope.
You don't get to see, you know, Buddy Boeheim not like shooting 50% from 3 and getting to look at his dad. You know what I mean? Like, he gets to go play for his dad. Yep. You don't get to see Oral Roberts.
Yeah.
You don't get blowjob Bob taking people out. Like, you don't get that. Like, the level of excitement and the level of like compassion that goes into, you know, college sports, and then especially March Madness, because some of these guys like Luka Garza, he's gonna be a first round NBA pick.
Yeah,
you know, when they lost, he like not a dry eye in the house. When they lost to Oregon, like, everybody on the bench was like, damn, Luka Garza's gone, and this is the saddest thing on the planet. And you felt that emotion, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the same thing with Loyola Chicago. When they lost to Oregon State, like, they were like, damn, I can't believe we weren't able to get this done for Cam.
Yep.
Like, Cam, like you said, he's never gonna go play basketball again in like a setting like that.
Yeah.
And they were like, I can't believe we didn't get it done for this guy who worked his ass off. And like, you don't see that in the NBA. And like, you see heartfelt stories and you see all the crazy stuff, but like, you don't get to hear things like that.
And that's why I really, really like Damian Lillard as a player, because he is one of the last few people that are loyal and play because they love basketball.
Yeah.
And they're like, the money will come, but like, I want to be loyal to this franchise, this team, try to win Portland a championship.
Yeah.
My question is for you, this is kind of like an NBA thing. Do you think it's possible that, because the NBA, I get it, right? The ratings are high for the top 7 to 10 franchises, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think they eventually go to the point of where they say, there's no longer a buyout market, right? We're getting rid of buying a player out, right? Because I think that's a big thing that screws the league. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they change the way, not now, in the next CBA, if they change the way like max contracts structured and they just basically made it like an NFL system or an NHL salary cap or like whatever it is, rather than being like you can essentially have max players.
I think the buyout market is the dumbest thing in sports.
It is.
I think that is literally like the dumbest thing on the planet. It's like, fine, we'll just eat this guy's contract so he can go.
Right. And like it makes sense. But if you're going to do it, there should be a deadline. It should be at the trade deadline. But at that time, you buy the players out. And that should be it. There should be a buyout deadline. Not Andre Drummond, we couldn't trade you by the deadline. 2 hours later, we're buying out the rest of your contract. You get to go to the Lakers.
Yeah, go to
and the Lakers give up nothing. They give up nothing because they're a super team, right? And that happens. It ruins it for some of the small markets. And it's why some of the small markets are struggling franchises that are never getting, unless they draft really, really, really well in a, like the Thunder, right? They are trying to get as many picks as possible because unless you draft really, really well, nobody's going to sign with OKC.
They're going to be so good in a few years.
They will be. And like and you look at like the Celtics, right? It was the same approach, but like who's going to Utah? Right? Yeah. Like right now they drafted well and that was good for them. They drafted well at the right time. Now they're kind of a destination that, as long as they have Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, they're a destination. But let's say they didn't have those players. Like, look at the Magic, right? Normally in other sports, people are like, oh, fuck yeah, let's go to Orlando. You know, I'll play in Orlando. It's a nice city,
in Florida,
right?
Yeah.
I'll go play for Orlando. Like, cool. But nobody's going to go sign with them right now because they literally have nobody on their team that is going to win. People are going to, and everybody's like, well, the Nets, like everybody's like saying, well, the Nets with all these players, like they're out of their prime. And it's like, but those are still talented role players that are going to make a difference and win a championship. Yeah, they're not all-stars, but the fact that the Nets can just like LaMarcus Aldridge is like, I want out, gets bought out, and is still a pretty good player. And it's like the Nets are just going to give him a minimum contract. The same thing with Blake Griffin, right? Like they trade for DeAndre Jordan. You were able to get KD, Kyrie, and James Harden on the same team with those players, still have good backups like Spencer Dinwiddie and like all players like that are young players that other teams would want. And then you look at the Celtics and it's like we're in a position with, that's why I don't like get mad at Danny Ainge, because it's like there's no trade that would have made us an instant threat to win a championship, so why mortgage the future? Right? Yeah. Why mortgage guys like Langford and Rob Williams and guys like that who we think could turn out to be something if it's not going to make this supporting cast? That's why he made the Evan Fournier trade. All you had to give up was Jeff Teague, Daniel Tice, Javonte Green, and 2 second-round picks. At the end of the day, in the grand scheme of things, like, yeah, I'm going to miss Tice, but we're not going to think about that 2 years from now.
No.
Especially if we keep Evan Fournier and he proves that we have a couple years of him scoring 18 points a game. It's just, the buyout market is stupid in the NBA. And I think the way the contract situations are is even more stupid because I think it allows teams to just save their money, right? We're going to be bad for a few years and then form a super team. I don't know the fix, but yeah, it's great. Everybody's like, well, it's good product on TV. And it's like, yeah, when? In the finals and when those teams meet up? Like, nobody's tuning in to Milwaukee versus the Celtics, right? Nobody's tuning in to Atlanta and Orlando.
Whereas you could just turn on the TV and go, oh, wow, Texas Tech and St. Bonaventure are playing. I get pretty...
Right, but like that's what I'm saying. That's why like I think that those two things in the NBA it also adds to the fact that there's no passion. Right? Like in the NFL, like there are players that just play for money and everything like that, but there's still passion in the NFL. There's still passion in the NHL. There's still passion in the MLB. The NBA is the most passionless sport of the 4 professional major sports in America.
Yeah.
And that's my take on it. And I think because it's the only league that it's a players, like the players decide everything.
Well, I agree.
Right? Like the coaches aren't really credible unless you have one of the top 3 coaches in the league. Other than that, like it doesn't matter who your coach is if you have the good players. And like even the GMs can't really decide because all of a sudden next year or in the offseason, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown could be like, I demand to be traded. I want out.
Yeah.
And they're out. And like in the NFL, that doesn't really happen because they're like, I want to win. This is the team that drafted me. In the NBA, it's Tatum's like, me and Bradley Beal want to go fill a super team.
Make out.
We want to go fill a super team with Devin Booker out in Phoenix.
Yeah, because Phoenix is on that rise,
right? And like
you're looking at these teams, like, the rise.
That's what's happening with a lot of these moves. Is like, Tatum could be like, Washington wants to add me to Russ and Bradley Beal. Mm-hmm. What's Danny Ainge gonna say? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to go to Washington. I want traded out and everything like that. I'm not saying these players are actually requesting it. What I'm saying, like, that's the type of league it is. But when you have the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, like, if even with his contract, if they start losing, he's not all of a sudden gonna be like, get me out. Like, perfect example, Aaron Rodgers. How disappointing he's been there. They haven't drafted around him. He hasn't once been like, get me out of Green Bay.
No.
Right? Like Russell Wilson, it was rumored that he asked for that. The only player was Deshaun Watson. And now we know how much of a freak he is based on it. Allegedly. But like, you know what I mean? Like, allegedly. It's just, yeah, it's too, I don't know. We'll wait and see how that goes. But we're getting towards the end of time here. We don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that one thing that is going to happen is we are going to be doing a live stream version of an episode for the NFL draft all 3 days. It's not going to be a podcast. We're literally just going to turn this on. We might do something special, but you know the dads, we're lazy. So we might just keep the same little look we got going on right here and just sit in front of the camera and have the TV on and talk about the draft picks. We got to look into it, but we definitely want to do a live version and be able to chat with you guys in the chat and actually talk about the draft picks. I think it'll be fun. The draft's on a Thursday? Yeah, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's 3 days, or is it 4 days still?
Excite.
I think it's 4 days. I think it's 4 days. When the hosts aren't listening. Anyway, so it's
much excitement.
It's we're gonna try to do something. We'll probably do something each day of that weekend if we can, and just like sit back, crack some beers, and just watch the draft with you guys.
That would actually be pretty sick.
But yeah, I hope we'll get to that. Brady, I want to hear a dad joke because we are running up on time. We've been ranting about how bad the Celtics are, how much NCAA has had some heart, way more than the NBA has, and we've also talked about the Patriots and what they're possibly going to do as a quarterback. So, Brady, let's end this shit.
Okay. Okay. What is
green?
The most condescending bear? A panda. Get it? Because it's condescending to be like, duh. It's a panda.
That was probably one of the worst ones you've ever done, which makes it the best one.
That makes it so good.
See ya.